Hey everyone, Duke Nougat 3D here with a gear-related review rather than my typical gas mask-focused videos, because today we are taking a look at the TMC MOLLE gas mask pouch. The reason I'm doing this is because I've been focusing a lot on my kit lately, and I just recently got this in. I have a few things to say about it, I suppose, and I didn't really see a lot of reviews on it, so I might as well just do a video on it for anyone's interest. So anyone that's probably coming into this review, given that it is related to gear and not gas masks, should know that this is not my typical content. So if you're just tuning in and hearing my annoying intro for the first time, please do not assume this is what I do on average. I mostly focus on masks. So that being said, this is a mask-related item, and so I am obligated to cover it. And I have been working on a setup with my Bay Systems RBAV plate carrier, in which the C420 powered air purifying respirator blower unit is mounted on the upper back, and the mask would be kept below it in a safe storage area. I'm sure that there are plenty of superior gas mask carriers out there on the market. I've considered many, but in my case of what I want this setup to be like, having the C420 on my back, it would not be the best to have the breathing hose dangle all the way down my thigh and impede my movement. And so having the mask carried on the back below the PAPR unit is obviously the best option for me at this current point, and this is the solution which I am looking into and will be reviewing in this video, obviously. So I don't know too much. This isn't really a historical review, so I can't really cover history on this. This is not a mil-spec item. As far as I know, TMC is not a government contractor. They are mostly an airsoft-oriented company. However, I have heard decent things about them. They're obviously not like Cry, but they're obviously not like Rothco either. They're sort of just an in-between intermediate is what I've mostly kind of heard. So the carrier itself is made out of a 1000 denier Cordura nylon, which I know I've heard some people say that airsoft gear is typically made out of high denier Cordura because the manufacturing methods are quite lax and therefore subjugated to falling apart easily. But in this case, TMC is a adequate brand, and so the quality is near close, if not identical, to mil-spec. The overall build quality is very good from my understanding. It is very durable. I can't really see this thing falling apart anytime soon, but even if it does, I have a sewing machine back there, so it's not really a big issue to me. I mostly just got this because, hey, horizontal MOLLE gas mask pouch, so that's basically what I needed it to fulfill. I'm not going to take it off because this thing has a shit ton of PALS webbing on the back to affix to a, what I assume to be 3 vertically by 6 horizontally. Like, this takes up the entire back of my RBAV plate carrier, as you can see. And then it's very weird spacing between the little PALS webbing straps here, because as you can see, they're in between the outer and the inner straps. There is a single gap of PALS webbing in between those straps there, which is kind of interesting, but it's kind of a neat idea because it does keep the vest, or does keep the carrier well spaced apart and very well affixed. However, I am going to be upgrading this setup in the future. I know that a good friend of mine, he has a YouTube channel, I'll probably link it in the description, Raptor, I believe his account name is currently. He recently acquired a Ronin Tactics zip-on MOLLE panel for his plate carrier, but he recently found out that the way they make them is the zipper, it isn't like the Cry zip-on panels where it is just the two of the same zipper on each side. The Ronin ones have opposite zippers, and so what he's going to end up doing is I'm going to eventually buy that off of him. He's going to get me the speculation for the zippers, and I'm going to replace the zipper to work with Cry zip-on adapters. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's not the point of this review. Let's get back to the carrier. So obviously, as stated before, 1000D nylon Cordura, and it opens with a single pull flap and with several hook and pile fasteners on the front. Really nothing to say there. You have a decent amount of adjustment with this. You could either, depending on how big the mask is inside the carrier, you could either affix it to here or it could go all the way there. Personally, I've never had a mask where I've been able to close it all the way down. There are no internal pockets. It is lined with a water-resistant nylon material. Really nothing to see. It's just a big old pouch. And I do have some minor complaints about it. It is a little bit on the small side, so I'm not entirely sure if they actually did design this with the intent of carrying actual CBRN protective masks. This might have been just labeled as a gas mask pouch and, you know, hey, you can put gas mask in here, but we know that you're probably going to use it for other things, so have at it. So I can't really complain too much. It is an airsoft product, but it does work for what I need it to be. So you may have noticed the variety of masks I have over here on the side, and I will be test fitting each one of these and giving my opinion on how well they fit, so it gives you an idea of how you would be able to store them and so on and so forth. Now, obviously with the main intent and purpose, I needed it with a C420, so the first test here is my Chimera M95 NBC protective mask. This is the standard issue finish one. It does not have the drinking cap, the drinking port cover on it. I still have it. It's removed. I just removed it because I'm going to be running this setup with a Camelback Model S adapter, which I actually do have one. I should probably make a review on that sometime when I get a Chem Bio Camelback reservoir. Anyways, I have the hose on here, and what I would typically do, obviously you will want to store the mask with the head harness inverted to quick don it. So I will be testing each mask with the PAPR hose and the and a couple different canisters. I have a MSA OptiFilter XL P1000 particulate filter, which would be good for dusts and riot control agents, and obviously a military C2A1 canister there, which is the typical, what the most common CBRN canister you're going to run across is. I'm sure you might use something else, but I'm sure it's similar in size. So obviously mask inverted. With the M95, what I found works best is if the mask goes in with the front facing inward. So the mask does get kind of tacoed a little bit, but as you can see, very, very tiny carrier. The opening is slightly elasticated, but it is manageable enough to where I can just shove the mask in there. I don't know if I'm doing that correctly. I can't remember how I did it exactly last time. May have been upside down, but you will be finagling with this a lot. There is always some dead space towards the back, and you'll need to shift and finagle the mask around to get it in there. And this was not designed probably to fit or accommodate a PAPR hose, but in my case, it works just fine. Mask fits in there perfectly. And I should note that this carrier, because of its size, does crush or distort the mask quite significantly, so I would not use this as a storage method for your mask. I would only use this to be carrying the mask while operating, so keep that in mind. So obviously with a Scott or Chimera M95, it fits perfectly. This really has no complaints for me in terms of the M95, and I'm not sure if the Scott Pro Mask 40 or the M120, or the M98, whatever you prefer to call it, or whatever variant you have, I'm not sure if that would work just as well because it is less flexible due to the panoramic lens, but nevertheless, I'm sure it's a similar build and would fit quite adequately. Testing with a canister, obviously the smaller of the two, the MSA OptiFilter XL, that would obviously go in there. Like I probably don't even need to do the folding technique like I do with the Papper hose, so I just cram the fucker in there. With canister end in first is what I feel works the best. There is a decent bit of room right here, and as you can see, doing it this way, the face piece will stick out. Expect this to happen a lot, so you will need to crush the face piece a little bit to get it all the way in. Once I do that, that is. And not the best setup, and I imagine with the C2A1, it's going to be even worse than that, so I'm not even going to bother, just to save time on the review. Next mask I'm going to be testing is the British Avon S10. I would test an FM12. I do not own an FM12. I would like to own an FM12, but I just generally have no need for one. So, with a PAPR hose, obviously sticking it on the side, I will go ahead and stick the mask in the carrier. I'll probably wrap this up after the next two masks because I don't know how much time I have left on my camera here. So with a PAPR hose, it fits reasonably well. Again, you got a bit of the face piece sticking out, but with a bit of finagling and a hell of a lot of crushing, you can close it up to the second amount, but I would definitely rely on a buddy to close it for you if you're carrying this mask because it's quite a tight fit, to say the least. Now testing it with a canister. I'll test it with the C2A1 because we already know how the OptiFilter XL fits. And I know some of you British people probably watching, if I even have any British viewers, is probably cringing at the heresy of attaching an American C2A1 to a British S10, but what have you. So getting that in there, it fits reasonably more well than the M95 with a canister just because of the profile of the mask. And then still quite a tight fit. Got to crush things a bit, so don't expect to be storing your mask in here as said before, but it fits nonetheless. Next up is the American M40A1 Field Protective Mask. Quite an old mask. I would test an MCU because it is similar to the MSA Millennium, or the Advantage 1000, which I'm sure fits in here much better than an M40 or an MCU, but nevertheless, I'm going to test it with this instead, because obviously this takes up the most amount of room compared to a Advantage 1000 or a Millennium or an MCU for that matter. So, inverting the harness. This is quite the bulkiest mask of the selection I'm going to be testing with this today. So, harness inverted, let's get it in their canister first, because that is the best way to do it from my experience. And quite a tight fit. I cannot, even doing this from here, this is a system you definitely need a buddy to help you with. And obviously there's a great deal sticking out here. So this, another mask. So, looks like that's all you get here. So I would not use an M40 with this carrier, unfortunately. I can't really say how well the Millennium or the Advantage 1000 would fit. I do imagine to a degree somewhat better, given that they are not as much of a drawer of silverware as the M40, but nevertheless, don't use an M40 with this. It's way too big. This is obviously not a high-speed, low-drag mask. This is just a very typical basic infantry mask. And the final mask I'm going to be testing is the 3M7800S protective mask, which is more of an industrial respirator. I know that there is a CBRN variant called the 7800B, which has a butyl face piece. This obviously is silicone, but I see a lot of people using these and wanting these, so I'm going ahead and screw an OptiFilter XL in there and shove it on in there, because this mask obviously has even more lens real estate than the M40, and so it is not as flexible as any of the masks. This is probably the least flexible, but getting it in there, I do seem to have a decent negligible amount of room, but that's not really the case. As you can see, that's as far as it will go. So even with a filter alone, I'm not even going to bother with a PAPR hose, because it's probably not going to make that much of a difference. And so, yeah, that's the biggest issue I have with this carrier, is its size. It's not very welcoming to a lot of mask designs. I could say that it would be better if it was expanded maybe longer to a degree and slightly outwards, maybe by even 3 inches, but even still, the mask that I really was intending to use it for, which is the Chimera M95, works well enough on its own as it is, and I don't really need anything more from it. I have tested my M45 in here, and that is also a pretty terrible fit, so I would not recommend that either. So that being said, that's really all I have to say on it. If you have any comments, questions, corrections, or concerns, drop them down in the comments below. I'm Duke Nougat3D, and I'll see you all later.